This week we discovered through top secret documents out there that the U.S. has been sponsoring a proxy war in Ukraine. Who had no chance of defeating Russia? So the question is, where's the stopping point to this madness? Hi folks, and welcome back to the Storm and Cellar. The U.S. has created one big matzo ball with the Ukraine-Russian war. But how did they get here, and for Pete's sake, what's the end game? The first question any nation should always ask before ever engaging in a conflict is, what's my strategic national objective and what is the end state of my actions? You have to have a starting point and a finishing line. Before we go any further, if you like my videos, be sure and follow me. Okay, as we found out this week, the U.S. has thrown $100 billion at a conflict between Ukraine and Russia that's unwinnable. That in itself should be very disturbing to taxpayers. Furthermore, the U.S. has jeopardized its world standing with allies and enemies alike. So let's take a look at several problems that contributed to this mess. First, throughout the ages, success in war has always been determined by the support of the people. Once the people's fund meters are pegged out, the war effort diminishes, support abruptly stops, and the will to fight grinds to a halt. In this case, the European people are not 100% behind NATO's support for Ukraine. And in the U.S., as more Ukrainian corruption and human rights violations are being exposed, American support is beginning to wane as well. Second, if NATO wanted to break Russia's back, it can't accomplish that unless you isolate trade partners like China and others. And that's just not going to happen. Third, the idea was initially that Ukrainian army was needed to destroy Russia. Okay, that makes sense. However, that was not possible, and Putin wasn't going to let it happen anyway. But Ukrainian soldiers were trained by the West to create a 600,000-man army to essentially conduct guerrilla warfare against Russia. The West quickly realized that was not going to happen either and decided to throw sophisticated weapons at them. Unfortunately, most of these weapons are 1 to 2 years away and won't be effective until then. Fourth, there's been a mass exodus of Ukrainians who will never return to their country. So even if Ukraine was to miraculously win the war, who would rebuild the country? Who would work the factories and businesses to ensure a healthy economy? Who would repopulate it? And who would defend it the next time Russia decides to invade? These are questions the West apparently has not asked or cared about. Fifth, the U.S. and NATO governments have sold the idea of support to its citizens from a fear factor of an emerging Russian empire akin to the Soviet Union. On the one hand, it's strengthened NATO by adding such countries as Sweden and Finland to its membership. And on the other hand, it's pushed Russia to the brink of using tactical nuclear weapons and cost hundreds of thousands of deaths, including civilians. So in this case, who's right and who's wrong? Is Putin an evil little oligarch who would love his legacy to be the rebuilding of the Soviet empire? You just betcha. Is Ukraine corrupt as hell? Absolutely. Is Ukraine worth risking nuclear war on a lost cause? I think not. Finally, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. Why did the U.S. stick their nose in a European problem? Was President Biden's alleged past corruption with Ukraine making him beholden to Zelensky for support? What part does the military-industrial complex play in the transfer of all these weapons, not only to Ukraine, but also to NATO allies? What's the end game now that DoD classified documents reveal that Ukraine doesn't have a chance of winning this war? What's transpired is massive corruption at all levels of the U.S. government. They've not only lied to its citizens, but also managed to destabilize Europe and reinforce the People's Republic of China as a legitimate arbitrator in the world. Staunch U.S. allies such as France, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and Mexico are running to the Chinese communists for cover. Yep, folks, because of this corruption and the inability to lead effectively, the U.S. is imploding before our very eyes. Okay, hope you found this video informative. Again, be sure to follow me and subscribe. Let me know what you think by leaving your comments below. Until next time, make sure your takeoff and landing's equal.